Hello, everyone. Thank you. Firstly, we are really sorry for the confusion that has happened, and thank you so much for waiting. We'll begin with the event shortly. Firstly, a very good evening to everyone who is here. Welcome to the Museum of Art and Photography. I'm Abhirami, and I work with the Education Outreach team here. It is lovely to see all of you this evening. We warmly invite Mamta Sagar and Arundhati Ghosh, the art of language, the conversation that they would be having today. Mamta Sagar and Arundhati Ghosh here would be having an intimate conversation on poetry, translation, and activism, exploring the intersections of word and image, the creative processes, and the journeys into the work that they do. We hope to reflect on the language and how that transforms into texture, rhythm, and varied lived experiences. Poetry collections, visual poetry, poetry in translation, and various other related forms and facets, and how that allows us to see the expressive dimensions of poetry is something we'll hear today. We would also like to mention that this talk is in collaboration with Ananya Dhrishya. Here is a short clip to introduce this initiative by Mr. S.T. Vasudev. a little bit about the speakers. Mamta Sagar is an acclaimed Kannada poet, playwright, translator, and academic from Bengaluru. Her work explores themes of identity, feminism, and cultural diversity. She has authored several poetry collections and plays, including Kada Navilina Hedje and Pada Sanchara, with translations published in English and Spanish. Sagar has translated the 40 Rules of Love into Kannada and led numerous international cross-cultural literary projects. A recipient of Charles Walls Fellowship, the World Literary Prize 2024, her poetry, films, and murals are showcased and installed at metro stations and public spaces. Professor Sagar teaches at the Srishti Institute of Manipal University, Bengaluru. Arundhati Ghosh is a writer, cultural practitioner, social activist, and traveler. With 3 decades of experience in the arts and culture, she served as the executive director of India Foundation of the Arts between 2013 and 2023. She contributed on advisory boards of the Seagull Foundation of the Arts, Blind with Camera, and Toto Funds the Arts, and continues to do so for the Museum of Art and Photography, Shomokhalin Pratibidhan, a feminist magazine in Bangla, the Solidarity Foundation, Sangama, and Mara. A poet in Bangla, publishing in Little magazines since 2010, her collection of poetry, Oshomere Fre Esho Nodi Hoye, was published in Last Resort Prakashan in 2023. Her book, All Our Loves, Journeys with Polyamory India, was published by Aleph Book Company in 2025. It is lovely to have the both of you again with us here. MAP is fortunate to have been supported by HSBC. A few notes before we begin. Please keep your phones on silent through the duration of the session. For those of us sitting in the back, please move forward if you want a clearer view of the screen or the speakers. Kindly refrain from flash photography. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Many of you already know Mamta Sagar and the various avatars of Mamta Sagar as well. It's really difficult to encompass everything that Mamta is and does in this city and worldwide. But today our attempt will be to see these different aspects of her work, of her life, of how her work and life comes together, and what does it make of her as an artist, as an activist, and as a feminist as well. So Mamta, I'm going to actually sort of nudge you around in this journey about your work. But I want to first start, because we've called this thing the art of language, I want to read out something from a very, very favorite writer, activist of mine, Audre Lorde, who I follow dearly, and from her book, Sister Outsider. She said that for those of us who write, it is necessary to scrutinize not only the truth of what we are speaking, but the truth of that language by which we speak. So I want to begin with asking you that we all know you, love you as a poet first. How did you arrive at the truth of your language of poetry?
The whole notion of language itself, thank you. I should have said that first. Okay. And she's been hyping about me so much that I got so embarrassed that I forgot to thank her. All right. But it's beautiful to be in conversation with you. Yeah. So the whole notion of language itself can be understood in diverse ways. One is the language with which you want to work, or you write in, or you belong to, whatever you identify with, or the language that is associated with your identities. So for me, it is Kannada.
Yeah.
So Kannada as a language is very poetic for me, the language itself. And the entire, like, I learnt Kannada. I studied in an English medium school in a small town called Sagara, where we were fined if we spoke Kannada. And I was the class leader, and I would fine everyone whoever spoke Kannada. So, but when we came to 10th, suddenly Kannada became the first language. And in the first test, I got 13 marks and I failed. But nothing happened to me. I didn't feel anything, I just felt, well, because if I had passed in moral science, Kannada would have been muff, So I also thought maybe something like that is happening with me. And the teacher was such a strict Kannada teacher. He had grey hair, complete silvery hair, dhoti, and typical Kannada Pandit. And khadi kurta, NN Madhyastru. And if you have to enter the class, you should ask him, Barla sir, excuse me sir, did not work. So he came to me and said, you have failed. I just looked at him. And he said, he showed the paper, 13 marks.
So this was in class 10?
8th.
Yeah.
13 marks. I was quiet. Then he said, you should understand that you have failed. You failed. And I just was silent. But I had to get it signed by my mother, who was extremely strict with me. And the report card, I saw it was red. I had failed. And I didn't know what to do. So a few days I just postponed, saying that my mother is busy. She was a doctor. And I slept off and something and all. Then I showed my mother and my father. Both of them were so shocked. They said, how can you do this? They put me on a tuition for Kannada. And one teacher would come and she would teach me, I don't know what all. She taught me Kannada, but I got so angry with that teacher because, there was one story for us in the textbook where the princess would be washing cloth in the river and there is a golden hair that comes. She will take that and say that, I will marry this person with the golden hair. That is a prince. Then I stood up and asked the teacher, I was already angry with him. I said, you say she's a princess. Why will she wash? She has so many people to wash her clothes. You know what he said? He said, sometimes, even if you are a princess, you may have to wash clothes. I didn't understand. That minute I didn't understand. And when I realized that, he was talking about menstruation and periods and those days where you should sit outside and all that. Secluded. And that gave me a shock. And I told him, you're doing this to me because I got less marks in Kannada. I'll get highest. And I started writing a novel in Kannada. And that novel was located in Bangalore, which I hardly knew. I used to come for holidays for Ajimane. And that novel was located somewhere, I don't know, in Gandhi Bazaar where there was Ashoka Hotel. And the hero always wore, I like brown. Light brown shirt, dark brown pant. Okay? And the heroine wore cream sari. Some bullshit. Every day I would read this to the class. And I became popular. And I started reading Kannada. I started reading big Shivram Karant's novel. I wouldn't understand anything, but I read. I read everything. I started reading and then I started writing, full of mistakes, but I wrote. And gradually, this teacher appreciated me. I got the highest marks in 10th in Kannada. And I had read everything. But I reread it all later. So, and also, one thing we have to remember is if you are a woman, if you are a girl, if you are a girl child, you can be very easily subjugated. You can be very easily shut down. Because you look like that. And if you are small and tiny, then it's worse. I was that. And I was not shy. That also made another difference. I was very bold. I spoke loudly and said everything in the class. And they just, my school just tolerated me because I was the daughter of my parents. While this was happening, ನದಿಯೊಳಗೆ ಆಕಾಶ ಮೋಡ ತಣ್ಣಗಿನ ಸೂರ್ಯ ನನ್ನ ಬೊಗಸೆಯಲ್ಲೊಂದು ನದಿ ಒಂದು ನದಿ ಮೇಲೆರಚಿದರೆ ಎರಚಿದರೆ ಹನಿ ಹನಿಯಾಗಿ ಚೆಲ್ಲುವುದು ಮೈ ಮೇಲೆ ನದಿ ಆಕಾಶ ಮೋಡ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಬೊಗಸೆ ನೀರು ಕುಡಿದರೆ ಬೊಗಸೆ ನೀರು ಕುಡಿದರೆ ಕುಡಿದಂತೆ ನದಿ ಆಕಾಶ ಮೋಡ ಸೂರ್ಯರನ್ನ ಅಡಕ ಯಾರು ಯಾರೊಳಗೆ ಯಾರೊಳಗೆ ಯಾರು ಅಡಕ. ಸೊ ಐ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ಡ್ ಮೈ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಮ್ಯಾಸಿವ್ ಮಾನ್ಯುಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್, ಬಿಗ್. ಐ ವುಡ್ ವಾಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ and I felt big always, you know. And I wrote this poem later, and when I read this poem in Tunchan Parambu, run by M.T. Vasudevan Nair, OMV Kurup had come. Kurup just came and said, my God, I should have written this poem. You have already written this. This is beautiful. The whole poem says, who is inside whom? If I drink the river, everything reflects in the river. If I drink the river, everything is inside me. Then I'm bigger than that. Yeah. So poetry allowed me to speak for myself. And Kannada, the sound, I recited a lot. And I also knew that Kannada was full of poetry. Whether you take religious or not, that which people call religious, I called it as poetry. Only then I understood what it was. You know, we had a temple nearby, and every morning there was this Suprabhata, and I had learnt it. I would recite Suprabhata every day. Like when you walk, Kamala kuchachuchuka kunkumato niyataru nitatul nilatano nijibhava venkata shailapate vijayibhava venkata shailapate. As I recited, one fine day I realized, wow, this is sensual. Because early morning, when she, the Lakshmi, wakes up, her breasts are so hard like lotus bud. And when her nipples rub the chest of this Vishnu, who is a blue person, his chest becomes red, transforms. That is how early morning happens. And how beautiful. And then, you know, I found there are so many love poems. There are such beautiful things, you know, and it's very important for us not to cancel something. We need to relook into things and learn, read and understand and see. For me, visual is extremely important. I want to see it. For me, poem happens in the editing. So I can make an image. When I present it, each one who listens to me, because I perform, I write, and the poem happens when I perform. Each one of you will have your own baggage through which you will approach my presentation. So you should be able to see what I'm saying.
So, you know, very quickly, you moved from using just words. I was coming to that. You've already, you know, sort of started talking about it, that you started using images, visual poetry in the performance. And not all poets do that. Most poets that I know of in Bangla or any other language, they basically write. And sometimes maybe at Litfest and other kind of events might read out some of their poems. But you have taken the poetry into not just creating the visual imageries around it, but also using sound, using movement, using the body. And here I also want you to talk a little bit of the body, because this whole, it's not just the movement and performance that you do, but there is this larger idea of the body that is seeped into your poetry as well. So share a bit about how the performance happened and this other larger philosophy of the body that your work deals with.
Yeah. See, I have performed, one of my poems was translated into Cebuano, which is a language in Philippines. Marjorie Vasco, one of the finest poets, she translated it. And I designed a performance in Nicaragua, where Spanish is spoken. So Cebuano in Kannada was performed, and later the translation in Spanish was presented.
Okay. Also
So-
the performance.
No. It was the translation.
Yeah.
So I like the sound, like we were just talking about Bendre. You know, for Bendre, Kannada poet Bendre, it is the sound. You know, by the end of it, he started reciting sounds. Avu ivina, navu nivige, anutana, datanana, nanu nina, nini nanige, dani entu janena. Like, you know, like, I always want to do something with sounds. I don't believe in meaning. Meaning is the last thing I believe. You should be able to construct the meaning by constructing the visuals, putting forth the visuals through sounds, by making sound, you know, by music. I collaborate with musicians and visual artists and translators. Like, you know, for me, it's the music which is extremely important. The sound of the language which is very important. So, and then the body.
First the sound came in, and so images, sound, and then the movement
Yes,
came
because
after that.
as I said, even before I understood the Suprabhata, it was the sound. It was Sublakshmi, it was somebody else, you know. Then the meaning comes. But when the meaning comes, when you are guided through the meaning, it might divert you and you might be completely misled or whatever, you know. But you passionately go into the meaning or into the sound, the meaning that you gain with the sound is something beautiful, you know. The sound is something which is, each language has its innate sound system, you know. You need to just tap or hold the nadi, the pulse of it.
Yeah.
The minute you hold the pulse of that language, then you know the rhythm, then you know the movement, then you know the sound which goes with the sound and the sound that is produced. So when this was happening, I was also growing up, thinking and learning, understanding, wanting to do something, wanting to, nothing was restricted in my life. But still, there is a society that restricts you for no reason. That was also happening. I just wanted to break that as well. So, first thing happens to a woman is the body. The restriction of the movement of the body, or whatever that body is, that is restricted. Just because you are born woman. So then how do you deal with it? Deal with the body. Body becomes the language. For me, body became poetry. When I started performing, my body, my eyes, my movement, my dressing up, my gaze, everything becomes part of the poem. So the poem happens through my body. So body becomes extremely essential, and I was like, the Dvaita and Advaita are the two philosophical streams which I was very curious and did a bit of homework around that, learned and read and engaged with it. Then I felt both Dvaita and Advaita had the body, either the separation or the oneness within the body. But for me, what I realized was, it is the Deha which is more important for me than the Atma. The soul, once you die, the soul, I believe, this is my belief, okay? The soul is part of the air. The air goes, it becomes part of the air. You are alive till your body is there. You know, there is only one life, and it's through your body, and it's the body that has to survive, the body that has to speak. The body is something which is the soul for me. Body is so precious. Anybody's body, the body of women, body of the queer, body of the marginalized, bodies of who control these bodies. All these meanings and hierarchies and everything happens in this society through the body. So body becomes very important for me. So I engage with the body, and it's beautiful to have a body and use it.
Within the Kannada language, because all this while you stayed with the Kannada language, right? How easy or difficult was it for you to find this language of the body? Because some of our languages, and I know Bangla deeply, and I know how difficult it is, given that a lot of writing happens through the male voice for the longest time, and there's a certain gaze of the body that comes in the writing. And language almost forgets or does not create its wealth of speaking from the non-male, let me say non-male body, because if I say male, female, it will again put a binary. I don't want that. In the spectrum, it's the non-male that finds it really hard to speak this language of the body, because you have to make it. How was your experience with Kannada?
Because it's not just Kannada. Poetry as a form itself is extremely patriarchal, and also the male gaze kind of, because poetry happens through metaphors. So metaphors are embedded with meanings. So therefore it's important to cancel the meaning first. And the minute you bring the binary oppositions, then you fail, because you are always on the other side. So you are, if white is good, you are always a black. If the height is good, you are always short. So, and if you are a river, you will die craving to go and meet that sea, which is silent, beautiful, standing there and royally. So I had to cancel all this. But I also, like, as I said, I love reciting. And Adiga is one of my extremely favorite poet, because Adiga's skill, Bendre and Adiga. Bendre is the language and the music. Adiga is editing, the skill of holding that Kannada poem, And, but both of them influenced me so much that I read them so much that I also realized that these metaphors that they are using, I cannot use this. It's very difficult for me to use that. So therefore, I began with cancelling the binary oppositions.
And you started creating your own.
Yes. Yeah. And what I did was, I became what I was not. I became the sea. I became the mountain. I became the voice. I became the God. I became everything that I was not allowed to. Sense, people like me, with this body, are not allowed to occupy. I tried occupying all those spaces through the same metaphors by cancelling the other. So, I got the authority. So, poetry also gave me so much of strength when I started thinking through this. It was politics for me.
Yeah.
So now, poetry became the body, poetry became the politics, and poetry became the voice. So it was very, very important to think through poetry and think through the history of making poetry. How to make a poem. To make a poem, to write about early morning, or to write about a love poem. It's so difficult to write a love poem, because love poems are all written around women, and women are also expected to write that there is something bigger than them and they have to attain that. And I was already big since school, since I was this much, I was that much. So I was already big, and then I would fall in love every other day. Okay? And because the next day I knew that was not enough. So, because this I'm really seriously talking about, because falling in love or love itself is so beautiful. It just blooms every now and then, all through your life. Whether you want it or not, it comes to you. When it comes to you, you have to have it. You have to hold it. How do I hold it? I need a special embrace in which I can hold it. Not the embrace that has been already created by a society which will expect me to behave in certain ways and treat that love in a certain way. So again, I had to cancel that. So, the whole understanding of this life happened through the body, happened through, gradually through politics and shifting spaces. Like, from Sagar I came to Bangalore, from Bangalore I went to Hyderabad. Hyderabad changed my writing completely. Like, the minute I went to Hyderabad, as I was telling you, initially it was difficult to read the boards because it was all in Dakhni, written in English or Telugu or Urdu, I was trying to read Telugu through Kannada and English, and by the time I could read, auto would go away. I couldn't complete that. And but it's a small little city. It was, when I went there in the 90s, I just fell in love with the city because it's so diverse. The old city, and I was also working as a journalist, political reporter first, and then I used to write columns, and this old city has so many people in diverse hierarchies, extremely rich to extremely poor, professions that of making safety pins to Zardozi, to pearl, to whatnot. It was, Hyderabad taught me a lot. First it taught me to see. See mutton stalls, which I had never seen from so near. See, that will also tell you how, where I come from, my background, and it was such a surprise, and it was so beautiful, and talking to people and trying to learn the languages and listening to the sound. It was different. It was not Suprabhata. There were two masjids near the house. It was the Azan. Yeah. And the Hyderabad city has these boulders, full of little boulders which are getting destroyed now. There is this Save Rock Society which is struggling to save that. So Hyderabad taught me a lot.
I want to move to another place that we in Bangalore, those of us who have not allowed the streets to go empty, see Mamta in every protest that happens in the city, across the city. So, Mamta, the other identities that you carry as strongly, even with your writing, but also in your association with various movements, various groups, is the feminist that you are, the activist that you are, and you have caused enough trouble I'm sure, in your own life and with the kind of things that you've participated in. Tell us a little bit about how this activism has become part of an artist's life, because not all artists step out into the street, but you're one of those who constantly does that. So that's one part of my question. But the other is, this feminist artist at home, you have raised a son. And we all talk about raising daughters, but here and now, raising a son as a feminist activist mother, what is that experience like? And how did all of this come back to your writing? Because I know your writing encompasses all of these areas.
I'll begin with the second question.
Okay.
So when we moved to Hyderabad, our son was 1.5. He is a Hyderabadi. He grew up there. And we used to have all friends coming from Bangalore would come to our house and bat hugs and this and that. And then the ETV started. So people would come for the ETV, artists would come. Girish Karnad used to come and B.V. Karanth used to come. Prasanna used to come and Arundhati Nag and many friends came home. And apart from that, the Hyderabadi, we were part of the Hyderabad Central University. So there were academics, activists, feminists who would come home and we would discuss things. And right now, till today, my son is a feminist. I hope he will remain that. And once there was a repair on the road. We were going by car to the university. He was very small. He was tiny. And they had blocked the road. And everybody was grumbling, oh my God, when will this happen and this and that. Then suddenly he asked me that how come there is a board saying that men at work and men are all sitting and smoking beedies, women are working. I said, wow, this is my son. And then I said, then what should they call? He said, people at work. And people should work. And he probably grew up with both of us who have been part of various socio-political, cultural movements and feminist movements. And the second question is over. Okay?
Yes.
So
first part. You're getting into trouble because of your activism and activistic writing.
Yeah. So activism and activistic writing. When I came to Bangalore in the 80s. It was the feminism within which I grew up. But as a woman writer, none of the women writing associated with activism. Activists were different, writers were different. Women writers were very decent and clean and they sat and wrote and they published and all that. But these activists were on the streets doing nothing, yelling and screaming, and how can you be part of them?
Yeah.
Therefore, I was never an activist. I never thought I could be part of the activism until and unless it comes and hits you, you know. And the minute you realize your writing doesn't sustain without activism, you become an activist. You cannot lie in your writing. Otherwise, you'll get so used to telling lies. You know, always you keep lying that you want freedom, you want this, you want that, you want. When Gauri was shot, Gauri Lankesh, my very dear friend, was shot, I just could not sit in the house. You know, it was not possible. Even before that, when Saket Raj is another amazing thinker who wrote Parallel History of Karnataka in 2 volumes, which is an amazing book of history about Karnataka. People should read it. It's available, soft copy is available online. And Saket's hands and legs were tied and shot by the police. And I was in Hyderabad. We all came to Bangalore, and all of us were waiting near the Kalakshetra for the body. But the police just took the body and from the back doors of Victoria Hospital and burnt it, and even his mother could not see him. So after which I wrote a poem for Saket after some time. I can't do it immediately, except Gauri, I take long time to write. You know, and I did a footnote for the poem. It was published in Kannada Prabha without the footnote. And the editor was a very dear friend, and he said, I didn't want to put the footnote to keep you safe. So since then, I read the footnote and perform the poem wherever I go. So, yeah, and that poem is full of metaphors. And then it was Gauri. I was in Chennai when this happened, and it was my husband Sham, one of the first people who went there, because she lived very near to our place. It just shook me. It shook me so much that, it's very difficult to say anything about that, And, when these things are happening, then I wrote, Vasu Dikshit called me and said, you have to write something, we have to do something. Then within a few days, all of us gathered together, Prakash Rai, I and many other friends of Gauri, and we did a huge, big, massive function where people came, flooded into Bangalore like ocean.
From across the state.
Across the state, across the country, people just walked in. They walked. People were there, And then I received a phone call from Delhi. I'm not going to tell you who and why and what. And I was told that you people, friends of Gauri, you are all liars. You lie. And I said, what lie? He said, she was shot with 4 bullets. In your poem, you are saying 7 bullets. And that was a lie that I said. And then we were all trolled, and Vasu was threatened as well for singing it, and everything, even before that, certain instances. And then we gradually started realizing how important activism is. Then came the CAA. During CAA, Hum Dekhenge went everywhere, So I translated that into Kannada. Then Mangai translated into Tamil based on the Kannada, and into Malayalam somebody translated. That also I translated. But this went viral because I called Pallavi and Bindu and requested them to sing. And they did an amazing job where, after a while, I completely forgot that I translated it. It was going everywhere. Like young people, young school students were singing it. Like activism not just brings us together, it keeps us safe. This whole notion of this body can also be safe. It can be vulnerable. It can be attacked, it can be protected, it can be saved, it can be ruined. Ruined comes very late. But this being together is very important. Because when there is something wrong, saying that it is wrong is extremely important, not just. My poems gave me a lot of strength to do this.
So, and moving on from here, there is another aspect of you that all of us have seen, at least in the past few years, which is you as a teacher. You teach at Srishti. Now, Srishti is also a space where most students come from a certain kind of privilege, but the way you enable them to re-see everything around them. So that's another story I want you to share. And as a mentor, almost like a mobilizer of young people, enabling them to look at the city that they're inhabiting differently through poetry, through reading, through sharing, which has given rise to the Kavya Sanjay that you started with the young people. So share a little bit about your journey with young people that who see you not just, and I've seen them with you many, many times, they don't just see you as a teacher mentor, they also see you as, as a comrade, I think, in many ways. So tell us, how do you build that?
I came back to Bangalore from Hyderabad in 2007 and joined the Bangalore University. And Kavya Sanjay began there. In 2013, I I just started it in Rangoli Metro, where Surekha was leading that, and Kannada poets were brought to MG Road, and we presented poems in Kannada. And because MG Road did not have Kannada then, even now it's less, but still there is people like us walk in and speak in Kannada. And also I also wanted the Kannada people to meet people beyond Kannada. People who are speaking Tamil. Tamil is a language in Bangalore. Telugu is a language in Bangalore. Hindi has now come in, and Malayalam is there, and Kannada, of course, is there in the old city of Bangalore. You know, so Bangalore is such a cosmopolitan, beautiful city. This city of ours, I love this city because it accommodates everything: food, people, languages. All kinds of things, you know, and spaces to escape. Even that is provided by this city. This city is so beautiful, and I wanted these students, Kannada writers, to get this opportunity of running away from the boxes that they are shelved in, and just open their wings and fly. And they met a lot of other writers, young writers from different languages, and we brought in, like, we did a lot of events. We did a poetry workshop with the Auto Rickshaw Drivers Union. So we brought in the drivers and made them write poems, and it was fun. And talked about Shankarna, Auto Raja, Rajkumar, and all this, and sang and all that. Okay, and we worked with the trans community, with women, and with Vimochana, and Sangama, and of course One Shanti Road is the other home for us. So and of course many people who are not writers, like Vasu, for example, who's an artist, you know. Many artists, for example, who have come here, I have collaborated with them and worked with them, and it's important for an artist to be multidisciplinary. It's extremely important now in today's time, you know, and engage and also be aware of what is happening around you. What are the languages that are spoken to say the same thing? So, Kavya Sanjay, young people, you know, young writers are really amazing, because they are sensitive to issues around them, sensitive to feminism, sensitive to caste, sensitive to hierarchies, class, everything. And that is one. The other one is Srishti. Srishti gave me a lot of space to experiment what I believed in. And the students, the kind of students that I get there are, yes, they are privileged. Hardly there are a few who show their privileged positions. Otherwise, they are open-minded and they are ready to mix with the Kavya Sanjay. Yeah. And you know, it's so nice to blend the local. This city allows that. City and the sites in the city and the spaces and the politics of the city, communities of the city. I worked in the KR market. I know half the vendors there. And it's so beautiful. Gandhi Bazaar and the locations. It could be, some of the spaces could be very conservative. But the minute you step in there, that conservativeness just dissolves. And it's important for us to do that. And that is what I am trying to do with myself and also young people. Yeah.
We will open up for questions, but before that, we have a little gift for you.
This performance is for our audience.
প্রতিশোধ। একদিন গভীর রাতে বাড়ি থেকে ডেকে নিয়ে যাবে।
রাতে?
ধোঁয়ায় ধুলোয় ভরা বড় রাস্তার ধারে
রাতে
ওই সারি সারি ট্রাকগুলোর পাশে গিয়ে দাঁড়াবো, হাত দুটো ছড়িয়ে দেবো আকাশের দিকে,
রাতে
পিচ খুঁড়ে মাটিতে গর্ত করে
রাতে
গোড়ালি অবধি গেঁথে নেব পা, আমার মাথা থেকে কোমর পর্যন্ত গজিয়ে উঠবে ছায়া, পোশাক খসে পড়বে ধীরে ধীরে,
সারি সারি
চামড়ায় রং ধরবে খয়েরি সবুজ কালো, আমি মুখ তুলে আকাশের দিয়ে তাকাবো, সারা বুক ভরে যাবে গুটি গুটি জোনাকি পোকায়, যে রাত্রে কোনো তারা থাকবে না আকাশে, জনি থেকে কাঁচা রস ফোটায় ফোটায় চুঁয়ে পড়বে পিচের উপর।
কোটায় কোটায় রাতে
একটা তক্ষক পা বেয়ে উঠে নাভির ভিতর আশ্রয় নেবে, ভোর হতে হতে কিছু পাখি এসে বসবে আমার কাঁধে, খড়কুটো নিয়ে যাবে সাথে, সূর্য উঠবে, শহুরে মানুষের দিন শুরু হবে, কেউ খেয়ালও করবে না কাল রাতে আরো একটা গাছ বেড়ে গেছে রাস্তার ধারে। একদিন ভোরবেলা আমিও একটা গাছ হয়ে যাব। গাছেরা এভাবেই রোজ রাতে প্রতিশোধ নেয়, একদিন ঠিক বাড়ি থেকে
গাছ
ডেকে নিয়ে যাবে।
ಮರ ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು. ಈ ಸಂತೆಯ ಸಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳೆದು ಹೋದ ಆತ್ಮ ಮಾರಾಟಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿದ್ದಾಗ ತಮ್ಮ ಹಕ್ಕು ಚಲಾಯಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳ ಬಂದವರು ಅದೆಷ್ಟೋ ಮಂದಿ ಗಂಡಸರು. ಚೌಕಾಸಿ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮಗಳ ಬೆಲೆ ಕಟ್ಟಲಾಗದು. ಆಗದು. ಆತ್ಮಗಳ ಬೆಲೆ ಚೌಕಾಸಿ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ಟಲಾಗದು. ಲಲ್ಲೆ ಹೊಡೆಯುವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಚೆಲ್ಲು ಸುರಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಸಾಟಿ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಇವರ ಸಹಿಸುವುದಾದರೂ ಹೇಗೆ? ಮೈದಡುವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೈಗೆಟುಕದ ನನ್ನಾತ್ಮದ ಜಾಡು ಇವರ ಜಾಯಮಾನದಲ್ಲ.
ಆತ್ಮ
ಬಾಜು ಬಂದ್ ಖುಲ್ ಖುಲ್ ಜಾ, ಬಾಜು ಬಂದ್ ಖುಲ್ ಖುಲ್ ಜಾ, ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಕಳಚಿ ಮೈಯ ಕಾವು ಏರಿದಾಗ ಮೂಗಿನ ತುದಿಯ ಹನಿ ಬೆವರು, ಕಿವಿಯಂಚ ಕೆಂಪು ಅಮಲೇರಿದ ಕಂಗಳು, ಸುರುಳಿ ಗುಂಗುರುಳ ಮುಂಗುರುಳು, ನಾಭಿಸುತ್ತ ಕೈಯಾಡಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಹರಡಿದ ಅವಕಾಶ, ಬೆನ್ನ ಹುರಿ ನೀಳ ಕಾಲು ಉಂಗುಷ್ಟ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೂ ಕುರುಡಾದವರಿಗೆ ಕಾಣುವುದು ತೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಮೊಲೆ, ತೊಡೆಸಂದಲ್ಲಿ ಅರಳಿದ ಯೋನಿ ಹೂ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಮೈಥುನದೊಂದು ಗಳಿಗೆಯ ಯಾಕೆ ತಾನೇ ನೆನಪಿಡಬೇಕು? ನೆನಪಿಡಬೇಕಾ? ಯಾಕೆ? ಹಾರಗೊಡದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಡ ನೀಯುವೆನೆಂದಾಗ ಹೋಹೋ ಎಂದು ಭೂಮಿ ಆಕಾಶಗಳ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡಿದವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಿದೆ ಇಂದು.
ಭೂಮಿ
ಬರೆಯುವುದೆಂದರೆ ಗಾಯಗೊಳ್ಳುವುದು, ಬರೆಯುವುದೆಂದರೆ ಗಾಯಗೊಳ್ಳುವುದು, ಗಾಯ ಮಾಡುವುದು. ಚೂಪಾದ ಮೊನಚು ಆಲೋಚನೆ, ಚೂಪಾದ ಮೊನಚು ಆಲೋಚನೆಯ ಚುಚ್ಚಿ ಹೆರೆದು ಗೀಚಿ ಗುರುತನೊತ್ತುವುದು ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರೆಯುವುದೆಂದರೆ. ಹಚ್ಚೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಬರೆದದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮರುಕಳಿಸಿ ಮೇಲಿಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ನೆನಪು ಧುಮ್ಮಿಕ್ಕುವಾಗ ಮೈ ಬೆತ್ತಲಾಗಿ ಬೆಚ್ಚಗೆ ಕಾಯುತ್ತದೆ ಕಾಮದ ಹೊಸದೊಂದು ಅನುಭವಕ್ಕೆ. ಸಂತೆ ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು, ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು ಸಂತೆಯ ಸಮರದ ಮೆಲುಕು ಹಾಕುತ್ತದೆ. ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು, ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು ಮಾರಾಟಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿದ್ದಾಗ.
একদিন গভীর রাতে
ಈ ಸಂತೆಯ ಸಮರದಲ್ಲಿ
হাত দুটো ছড়িয়ে দেব,
ಲಲ್ಲೆ ಹೊಡೆಯುವುದಕ್ಕೆ,
পিচ খুঁড়ে
ಚೆಲ್ಲು ಸುರಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕೆ,
মাটিতে গর্ত করে
ಇವರ ಜಾಯಮಾನದ್ದಲ್ಲ.
পোশাক খসে পড়বে,
ಮೂಗಿನ ತುದಿ
ধীরে ধীরে,
ಹನಿ ಬೆವರು
ধীরে ধীরে,
ಕಿವಿಯಂಚು
খয়েরি সবুজ কালো,
ಗುಂಗುರುಳು ಮುಂಗುರುಳು,
যে রাতে
ನಾಭಿಸುತ್ತ
তারা থাকবে না,
ಬೆನ್ನ ಹುರಿ
জনি থেকে
অঙ্গুষ্ঠ
কাঁচা রস
ಕುರುಡಾದವರಿಗೆ ಕಾಣುವುದು
फोटाए फोटाए फोटाए
ಯೋನಿಹು ಮಾತ್ರ.
भोर होते.
ಯಾಕೆ ತಾನೇ ನೆನಪಿಡಬೇಕು?
पाखी 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 पाखी
ಹಾಡ ನೀಯುವೆನೆಂದಾಗ
খড়কুটো নিয়ে আসবে সাথে.
ಭೂಮಿ ಆಕಾಶಗಳ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡಿದವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಿದೆ.
শহুরে 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 মানুষের মানুষের মানুষের
ಬರೆಯುವುದೆಂದರೆ
দিন শুরু হবে.
ಗಾಯ ಮಾಡುವುದು.
কেউ
ಚೂಪಾದ ಮೊನಚು ಚುಚ್ಚಿ ಹೆರೆದು ಗೀಚಿ
কাল রাতে আরো
ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಗುರುತನೊತ್ತುವುದು.
একদিন ভোরবেলা
ಮೈ ಬೆತ್ತಲಾಗಿ
আমিও
ಕಾಮದ
আমিও
ಅನುಭವಕ್ಕೆ
আমিও
ಕಾಯುತ್ತದೆ.
গাছ
ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು,
গাছ
ಆತ್ಮದ ಗುನುಗು,
গাছ
ಆತ್ಮದ
গাছ.
ಗುನುಗು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. I wanted to read one little poem. We forgot about that.
The Palestine,
Yeah.
your friend.
This is
Give a little intro of that.
yeah. Ghazan Zaktan is a very dear friend and a poet from Palestine. We have met many times in different poetry festivals.
Scarf is from there.
Sorry?
Scarf is from Palestine.
Yes. And Ghazan Zaktan's one poem I would like to read now. I will read in English. Basically, it's in Arabic. I'll read in English and the Kannada translation. Maybe I'll read the Kannada translation first and then the English. ದಿಂಬು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಸಮಯವಿದೆಯಾ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕೆ? ಅಮ್ಮ, ಮರಳಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಎದೆಯೊಳಗೊಂದು ಸೀಸದ ಗುಂಡು ನೆಟ್ಟಿಕೊಂಡು ಮರಳಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿದೆ ನನ್ನ ದಿಂಬು, ದಣಿದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮಲಗಿ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಯುದ್ಧ ಬಂದರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ, ತಟ್ಟಿದರೆ ಬಾಗಿಲು, ಹೇಳಿಬಿಡು ದಣಿವಾರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಎಂದು. ಪಿಲೋ, ಇಸ್ there still time to tell her, mother, good evening? I have come back. I have come back with a bullet in my heart. There is my pillow. I want to lie down and rest. If war ever comes knocking, tell them he's taking his rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamta, for that. Now we open it out for any questions that you may have for Mamta.
Thank you so much for that. My question is, I'm someone who grew up in Bengaluru, and I remember it very differently. And last week I moved back after 20 years. And as I move back here, I am frightened by the fascism and the extremism, not just in political spaces, but people I'm related to. Where as a child I would argue with people, but now I'm afraid about who's listening and what they'll do to me. So I want to ask, how do young people navigate that with language?
It's very difficult to answer your question because all of us are going through that. And that's why I'm telling you that it's extremely important for each one of us to have a practice which can speak. Because you're not allowed to speak. But you can speak through practice, you can speak through poetry, you can just contest anything through art. It's very important. And as you said, there are these lenses everywhere. The people are watching you. And you have to be a tiny little courageous. This heart should stay there and say, yes, I am big. I won't tell a lie. Don't tell lies ever, ever, ever. And tell it if you have to save someone. You have to tell a lie. and that lie should be helpful. And first thing what I would want to tell is like, we have to believe us, first we have to believe. You cannot independently talk about feminism without addressing caste or gender or class hierarchies. Similarly, you cannot address anything else without addressing other things. Caste is the most important thing in India. Caste has to be addressed. Whatever it is, caste comes first. And if you are not sensitive to that, then whatever you are sensitive, that fails. Then comes gender. Caste and gender have to be in our mind and heart. And you should be courageous enough to say no to these hierarchies. Or, for example, there are big people who are saying that we need not address the caste.
They are.
Well, I was referring to something in particular. Okay.
Who did not participate in
Who
the
did not
survey?
participate?
I did not. Put a board on my gates.
We will talk about it later outside. Yeah. Sorry. That was not the tone I wanted to use. But it's very important for us because we don't know our history. Already history is being changed now. It's in the process. First of all, do we really know what our history is? Half of us were, 3/4 of us were not allowed to, no access to education, no access to any space, social, political spaces, political space people occupied. Now it is time for us to occupy spaces in our hearts. First, I don't have an answer for your question. I am not part of any of the WhatsApp groups in my family.
So,
Thank you.
Mamta, if I may just add something to this, I've always felt that this feeling that you're talking about gets even stronger the moment we start seeing ourselves as individuals. I have found great strength in being in collectives. There are people like us around. If you're a woman, be part of women's groups, actively engage with other people like you, other people who are also feeling scared. We are all feeling scared. But we don't have to do that if we can do it collectively. If we can
Don't
come
ever
together
say you're
collectively.
scared.
Yeah.
And it's important to go out. Wherever, whichever city you are, go, city will fall in love with you if you are ready, So there is so much of love around us, so much, It can just drown you, drown all the negatives. I'm a positive person. So I believe in that. And only then your voice can be strong. Yeah.
Any other? Yeah. We have a question.
I guess I'm a speaker and writer at a loss for words because I regret I did not meet Mamta ji earlier. I've been living here many years and I've never met her, physically or personally. So I'm very warmed in my heart and soul and mind to have met her and Arundhati ji. However, what I would like to understand your standpoint is, you said generally it's the physical, the body, the woman's that body, and that you're not so much into Atman or mind or consciousness. That is a bit perturbing because I feel you're being reactionist for being born such a lovely, petite, pretty lady. That is why you're reacting that the general society and the country, their attitude to a girl of your, petite stature and being a girl, that was your reaction to it. So why not mind? Are we not a metaphor in a certain sense? If you look at the whole cosmic realm, do you feel that? But everything cannot be brought down to the physical. I agree that in this body, even yoga, we are doing in this body, this time, now, at this moment. Zen, also Buddhism, believes in now. There's nothing else but now. So in that sense, you're right, that only the physical is right. What is your concept of mind? Do you completely shun Atman, that it doesn't exist? Or do you feel there's no such thing as a higher consciousness? What is your attitude? And I wanted your...
maybe we keep to that so
Okay,
that
yeah.
then others will also get a chance. Yeah.
Okay,
Mind-
as I said, that the whole pettiness was a metaphor, and monumental was also a metaphor, because I cannot become monumental. I'm only this much. Okay, so for me, there is no Paramatma. I don't believe in God. That is cancelled. So, Atma in the Jiva, Jivatma, it's the body that holds the air. It's the body. It lets out, it's gone. And I am extremely politically, socially sensing person, because all these kinds of things are so Brahminical sometimes for me, and I don't want to bring that back. So it's very easy to believe that there was this plane that went to Sri Lanka during Ravana's time. Pushpaka Vimana. It's very easy to believe, make believe, that there was a Pushpaka Vimana, there was a monkey. It's such a beautiful story. Ramayana and Mahabharata are stories. It's so nice. And why do we have to disturb or destroy or malfunction that? And I am a writer. I want my life to be happy. I want people's life to be happy. I don't want misconduct in the society. And this whole notion of Atma, Paramatma, Jivatma, I could sound sarcastic, but I am sarcastic. And therefore for me, I am important, my body is important, bodies like me are important, and every body which is under subjugation is important. Thank you.
Hi, thanks Arundhati for moderating so well. Mamta, namaskara. So I had two questions, related questions. One was now with this very aggressive linguistic imperialism, which you referred to in like Kannada and everything else that we're experiencing, versus now voices like Bhanu Mushtaq coming into public consciousness, the kind of stories she's bringing in. Of course, she's been around forever, but now more with also, I think, different forms of Kannada, like Hassan and the kind of stories that she writes about. So if comments around those two, what are your thoughts?
See, the first one, whichever you asked about the linguistic conservatism, that I see it in two ways. One is the Kannada conservativeness, or do we have to call it as protecting Kannada or not, is a question. And we need, it's extremely, I believe that it's important for Kannadigas to speak Kannada and protect Kannada in Bengaluru. And also, it is also our responsibility to offer spaces where non-Kannadigas can walk in and be part, learn Kannada, or Kannada is not just language I'm referring to, Kannada culture. Kannada, again, it is not monolith. It's diverse, right from food to anything and everything. Sometimes, it just happens like speak Hindi. I will not speak Hindi. I don't want to. I just don't want to. Then I'll speak only Kannada. It's up to you to understand. These kinds of things, sometimes, politically it is very important to engage with these kinds of thoughts, and which sometimes goes wrong if you are misunderstood as a Kannada chauvinist. Being a Kannada chauvinist must be a wrong word, for Kannada is important for me. At the same time, I also want to learn, read, understand, listen to sounds of different languages. Tamil has such wonderful poetry. Bengali has. And we have poets living in Bangalore who are writing in different languages. Bring them together. Kavya Sanjay is doing that. And by bringing them together and understanding them and translating them into Kannada, we are enriching Kannada. So this kind of engagement between languages, therefore cultures, therefore thinking and spaces is very important. Next, Banu. Banu getting a Booker Award at this point of time in history, in Indian history, and Banu's work, Girish has already made a film, Girish Kasarolli, Hasina has come, people have seen it, but there was no discussion. Why is Banu becoming very important now? Two people who support her, two people who oppose her. That is the thing which we need to address. And it is very important for all of us to talk about Banu, Vaidehi and other writers, of their contemporary writers, at the same time, and also address issues of women and also diversity within women. And linguistically, as you said, Hasan Kannada, Deepa has done an amazing job, so by bringing that kind of English in translation. And also, it is important to talk about gender. And today it is, when the Islamophobia is celebrated, and the queerness is questioned, and people from small communities, the marginalized castes, and all the issues are still alive since 100 years. Certain things are hyped up now, and it is important for us to address. And Banu getting a Booker Award right now, I celebrate that. And before this, she got the Commonwealth. I was the jury. And I love Banu's writing, and I love Banu as an individual, as an activist, because she's a lawyer. She's an advocate. She knows in and out of what is right and what is wrong. Banu is Banu. Yeah.
Just one thing I wanted to add here, I've been living in this city since 96. This is now my city. I belong to Karnataka in many ways more than I belong to Bengal. I have always felt one particular relationship with the migrant and the city as difficult, especially to do with my community. And I'm going to be very critical of Bengalis. I have seen, Bengalis think that they have great culture, they have great language. Maybe some of those are good to believe in. But I don't believe you can ever love your culture or language without actually, in some ways, equally loving other cultures. I have seen great hesitation in the Bengali community, mostly, not all, okay, you don't know Kannada, but all Kannada great writers are translated today. You can read, you can understand the culture, you can travel in this. Do not treat it as a rented house where you've come only to earn money. I think that attitude of people like us who come because of opportunities to this. Karnataka is one of the few states that embraces you without judging much more. I've lived in other states, I know. I travel a lot, I know. But you also have to respect it back. And you can't call it chauvinism the moment Kannadigas want their language, their culture to be celebrated. You suddenly can't start calling it chauvinism. So I've had huge fights with people within the Bengali community saying, it's great you do 110 Durga Pujas here, but do you also participate in the Kannada festivals? Where is that multiplicity in you? I think that's something that we have to address as you spoke about how Kavya Sanjay brings together all these poets. It's very beautiful. But at the same time, we have to do the ulta also. The Kannada poems need also to be translated into Bangla, Marathi, Tamil, Hindi, so that we understand what writers here are writing.
From Kavya Sanjay, in January, we are doing an international poetry translation workshop where we are bringing languages like Mia is a tribal language from Assam. Mia and Gujarati, of course, we wanted Gujarati. And Welsh, Tamil from Sri Lanka, and a few other languages.
Languages to be translated.
No, all of that will be translated into Kannada. Kannada will be translated into those languages, which culminates in a day-long poetry festival on the 17th of Jan. Please mark the date, do come. It will be in Chitrakala Parishad. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Vasu. Thank you, Ananya Dhrishya and MAP.
And MAP for...
And the gorgeous...
Thank you. Super honored to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much to the both of you. Thank you, Ananya Dhrishya, for the collaboration. And once again, thanks a lot for all those who came in early and stayed through and through to the very last question. It was wonderful to hear all these insights and lived experiences here. I'll just tell a little bit about what we have over the weekend. In case you still haven't been to Shape of a Thought, Letters from Ram Kumar, that's the exhibition that's being closed tomorrow. Ram Kumar is one of the earliest modernist painters, and this exhibition humanizes him, sort of takes us through the thought processes that he has been through. And this weekend would be the last chance for you to visit the exhibition. Along with it, we have a workshop and a walkthrough. So please do check out our website to register for these events and do visit the exhibition. And thank you all once again. Have a lovely weekend.
And thanks to all our audience.